Hi everyone, it's Justin here at Voices for Voices. Thank you so much for joining us, whether you're watching, whether you're listening, whether you've been with us from the beginning, or this is your first show. We are growing rapidly, and it's only because of you that we're able to do so. Where we have this huge goal wanting to reach and help at least 3 billion people over the course of my lifetime and beyond. And it's only going to happen with your help. And we thank you. If you can give us a big thumbs up, like, follow, subscribe, share, that'll help us greatly. It will also help us greatly if you reach out to 25, 50, 100 contacts in your phones and let them know about Voices for Voices and Voices for Voices TV show and podcast. Voices for Voices is a 501(c)(3) nonprofit charity organization. All donations, all book sales can be written off here in the United States when you do your taxes, we uh, as we are a charity. You're able to write off those donations. They're federally tax deductible here in the United States, and we are reaching countries all across the world, cities all across the world. So just check with who your tax preparer is and see if it is the same when or in your country. So thank you so much for being with us. And if you do want to make a donation, you're able to. You can do that on the Cash app. You can do that on Venmo, and you can also do it at lovevoices.org. Lovevoices.org. That's lovevoices.org. So thank you again, as we have to say, because we don't have a show without listeners or viewers. We're going to talk about space. We're going to talk about the moon. We're going to talk about spaceships in this episode. I don't know about you or people that are close to you about, as you grew up and as you are growing up and continue to grow up, how many of have you, when asked, what would you like to do when you get older? Right? Eh, when we're small children, we have a limited view of the world. And for me, when I was growing up, I wanted to be an astronaut. I wanted to go to space. I wanted to maybe go to a different planet, maybe also go to the moon. And so growing up, that was one thing that I wanted to do. And so much so that I remember vaguely my sister, she was on a travel softball team, and I think there was a tournament in South Carolina or Alabama or near there. And I believe it was either at our hotel or it was at, a welcome center or a rest stop, where you have to go in and use the bathroom and that is, when you're traveling long distances, keeping that blood flow. But there was information about one of the space centers that was in Huntsville, Alabama. And then there was within that packet of information, there was information about space camp. And I grew up with everything that I needed and more. And even at that, the price tag of traveling to Huntsville, Alabama to go through this space camp where nothing was going to be guaranteed. It wasn't like, well, if you go to this space camp, you'll be able to be an astronaut. There's so many years that goes into training, preparation, and then there's so many astronauts that they go through the same preparation and training, and they're not selected for a particular mission to fly at that time on the space shuttle vehicles. Uh, and so yeah, there was no guarantee. And again, we had everything we needed and more, but the cost was just so much. And I remember one of the pictures was of one of the things that they do. So they show, I don't know that they showed like, deep sea, where you put on all the, like the scuba gear and then, you're fixing things underwater to give that feeling of, the gravity and stuff in space. But there was another photo, and this one I remember vividly. It was kind of like your feet and your legs are, I would say, like strapped in, and then this machine would basically simulate like the G forces, I guess, of how it affects the body, how it affects the stomach, and so it was going forwards and then sideways and then backwards and I don't remember the amount of time that the particular brochure said that he did that. But I remember looking at that and go, oh my gosh, I was excited to see that, but then there was a part of me like, oh my gosh, like I could be one of the people that throw up on this particular part. Just because it was like once it was shown, like it was a static picture in the brochure, but then doing more research and finding a video of how it how it operates. And so that was one thing on top of others that kind of like got me, thinking like five times. Um, and that was honestly like a parting thought because the decision, I just wasn't gonna be able to afford it. If we weren't gonna be able to afford it, like, it was just a lot of money. And so I was like, well, maybe I can get one of the space suits, not the ones that they wear in space, but the one you see them walking to and from different test things where like I don't know, some of them are like all orange and then have, the different logos of, whether it's NASA or SpaceX or uh, whoever is you know putting that mission together. So I bring this together because Artemis II, so Artemis II took off from Merritt Island in Florida earlier in the week that we're filming this. And I remember having, it was on TV. So we had it on. Hey, my daughter, I was I was watching. She was semi-watching. She was doing what kids do, playing, and so I was like, hold on, there's gonna be a spaceship that takes off. And lucky for us, it did. And so I was like, I was able to get her to stop just to see because it's a big deal uh, for this particular mission because they were taken off with one of the biggest rockets that has ever been used on like a space shuttle, a space vehicle. So right, there's all kind of safety concerns for the astronauts. For it, it, it's amazing, like stuff that I'd learned over the years is when you see the space vehicle take off, like go straight up, basically, especially at the for quite a bit, and then it starts going at an angle. And when it gets into outer space and it gets into orbit, all that. Um, but if you've seen any pictures or photos of the space vehicle taking off, and you see what looks like it's all this smoke that's being forced out of the engines and over and up. And I found out multiple years ago. Uh, but when I was younger, we went to Kennedy Space Center. There wasn't a launch near uh, near the time we were going to be there, but we went on, and I wish we had phones, cameras, because we were doing the old-fashioned way with the old Kodak, you know, one picture at a time, and so we did a tour of kind of the launch pad and as close as we could get. There, like I said, there was no space shuttle or space vehicle that was close. So there was nothing like that that we could see that was live. Um, and so that was when I was younger. And then I would say like I was in my mid 20s, probably mid to late 20s. Uh, went on a cruise with a couple of my buddies at the time, and we were leaving out of the Jacksonville port. Uh, and I mean, we couldn't have planned it any better because where we were at, so we flew down the day before in case, right, like something happens with bad weather with the planes. You don't want to miss like a cruise, put a lot of money into any type of trip. But a cruise is what we were going on. And so we flew down the day before, and as we were getting closer to the dates and closer to flying down, that day before, there were still NASA was still flying the shuttles. And given where we were going to be at in Jacksonville, we were going to be able to see the launch, the takeoff. Uh, I remember very little about that. Number one, because I still wasn't on the track of taking care of my mental health, and so I was drinking alcohol. Uh, but that wasn't the reason why. The only reason why I couldn't see because the space vehicle right ahead, or the space shuttle, it had the vehicle that the astronauts were in was white, and the rocket boosters that were white, and then the external fuel tank that was orange. So I can't remember if we were able to see, but there was going to be literally a liftoff that day before our cruise. And so we went to eat at a restaurant and we were able to see the the launch. And so, like I said, I can't quite remember if we're able to see the colors, like I said, of uh, the external fuel tank, the rocket boosters, and the shuttle, if we were able to see the colors. But we were able to see, you know, the what would have been, I guess, the fuel burn. And so like if you watch an airplane, on Earth and you look up and you see, and sometimes you can see like a trail behind it. And so we were able to see the trail and it for at least a few seconds and it went up and then because you had to be looking in the right direction because everything is down to a T scientifically of the Earth's rotation, getting into the right orbit of how they're able to circle the Earth so quickly. Uh, anyway, so I was able to experience that. So I was probably the closest in person. Uh, and again, we weren't at the Space Center for that, but we were able to actually see it, like as if we were sitting on a deck and looking up and seeing, a trail and saying, okay, yeah, that is an airplane and see, it kind of moving along. So I'm just bringing all these things and all these like memories together to again earlier this week when we're filming this. It's earlier in the week that happened. So my daughter stopped what she was doing and we're watching it, and I was like, that's been quite a while that there's been this type of uh this type of a launch with this type of again, it's a new rocket. There are people on board. There's been a lot of tests that went into each bit of equipment, probably tens of hundreds of tests. And these astronauts were there and they're still there. It's a 10, I think they said it's a 10-day trip, but it's called Artemis II, Artemis, and then the numbers two, and they use the Roman numerals, which look like the capital I. Well, and so it kind of looks like all because like if you had like that's the I, but then you have the lines at the horizontal lines at the top and the bottom, and so that's what the patch that's on the spacesuits are. That yeah, we're all humanity, we're all humans, and so it was cool to watch the takeoff. And so it's a 10-day mission, and they're not going to land on the moon. They're going to circle the moon, and they're actually going to go on the opposite side of the moon, which is the dark side of the moon. And it seems like, from what I'm gathering, that nobody's done that yet, at least with human eyes. They may have had unmanned vehicles, and then I'm not sure at the earlier flights when they did land on the moon how or why they couldn't go on the dark side of the moon, and maybe it was probably because there's been advancements and different types of rockets and having extra energy, I guess I would say, like to be able to, propel the space vehicle around the totality of the moon on the dark side. And so kind of that I heard them talking about how the the astronauts and the space vehicle is going to use the moon's gravity to propel it around the dark side of the moon and then come back and have the trajectory be to Earth and then land. It might be a splashdown, I think. Uh, because of space shuttles years ago when they had a space shuttle program. The space shuttle was very bulky, and not only were the solid rocket white solid white rocket boosters after the space shuttle took off after a certain amount of time, they've burned all their fuel, and so then they release and they go into the ocean or the Gulf of Mexico. And then the same thing with the orange external fuel tank. And so what's left is the space vehicle with the astronauts in there. So that's what the 10 days is. And so back again with the space shuttle, it landed like an airplane. So, with the tires coming down, the landing gear, but I believe it's going to be a splashdown, meaning it's once the astronauts the part of the um, space vehicle that returns to Earth, it's going to splash down, and then there's recovery teams that are they'll know exactly when and where, have a good idea where to position themselves so that they can retrieve uh, the space vehicle, and then obviously then retrieve the astronauts. And it's gonna be uh, an interesting time. I don't know. It's probably already been laid out there what time, day and time, and I'm sure there's a window depending on the weather because I mean the I forget how many thousands of miles per hour that the spaceship, when it took off and it launched from Earth, it got up to 2,000 miles an hour. I think it was way more than that. It may be 10,000. It was the last number I heard. I just remember, oh, like shaking my head, like that is just incredible to be going that fast. And so it makes sense why there's so much training that goes on. And I don't know how the selection process goes, but there's a lot of astronauts that again go through all the training and some of them are training for future missions. I think Artemis 3, so Artemis 2 is what took off and what we're talking about now. So they're going to go around the moon, go to the light side and the dark side of the moon, and then come back. They're not going to land on the moon. Artemis 3, I don't know if it's going to be a manned or unmanned trip. And I think that one might land on the moon. Don't quote me. And then I think it's either Artemis 4 or 5 that is slated to take astronauts to actually go back to the moon and land. And I know there's all kind of conspiracy theories out there. I don't know. I mean, from what I've seen about the landing on the moon and that, I mean, I guess I don't understand. I know it takes a lot of money and to do things, so I'm not I'm not giving NASA a break or anything. I just I find it hard to believe that the technology, the money that was spent, and we put people on the face of the moon. In the one video, I think they're driving like there's like space car. planting, the US flag there. And I don't know. I mean, there has to be some reasoning why we haven't done that again until, I mean, shoot, the 19 was it the 1960s, 1970s when that happened? So we're talking like 50 years. And so is it like, well, we did it one time, so that's it? Um, I that's for another day. So what I really want to talk about, and I know we're quite a bit into the show, is how claustrophobia, somebody's claustrophobic, and I'm just gonna starting to notice things more and more about myself, and I do have, I think, a bit of claustrophobia, and if you're if you want to be an astronaut, the size of the space that they have during their 10-day mission is a space is a size. So there's four astronauts, and the size of the space that they're living and doing experiments and doing what they do uh is the size of a dorm room. And when you think of, this that size and then being that close 24 hours a day for the duration of the mission, I know I couldn't do that. And so not only did that, that machine, kind of testing out like if, you know, all the G forces and the dizziness I talked about at the beginning of the show. Uh, but the claustrophobic that I I think that's part of why I'm maybe so introverted most of the time, is that I just kind of, I don't know, I guess not not curl up like not curl up, but I just come into myself, and it's when I see, if I'm in a building, if there's high ceilings or if the weather's nice, being able to go outside and not be super close to a lot of people. Um, so claustrophobic, phobic, I think agoraphobic is something similar about, but I think that one's about being in large crowds. So I got a little bit of everything going on. Being claustrophobic and agoraphobic, in particular situations. And again, we can change as humans over time of how we are. Like I haven't gone on a roller coaster in a long time. Uh, I used to love going on roller coasters, and I'm not even talking about like finding out like ones when they malfunction and that, but just in general, I'm like I'm I'm worried that like my dizziness is gonna like come back, and I don't know. When I was in Houston, Texas, living for a couple of years, they have, for those of you who live down in Houston, and there's the U-turns and that. Well, here where I live, we don't have U-turns, so I didn't grow up driving with them. Excuse me. And so I got into an accident when I first moved down there, where I was in, I think, the center lane or the right lane, and I needed to be all the way to the left lane, and I needed to do a U-turn because where we were going was you had to be on the other side of the road. And where I live now, you just go, there's usually a middle lane, and you put your turn signal on, and then you turn left there, or you turn at a traffic light, not a U-turn. So I wasn't used to it. And so I got an accident because I saw that I needed to get over last minute. I don't even know if I had put my turn signal on. Again, this is many years ago. It's water under the bridge at this point. But what I'm bringing this up is I don't know if I had any whiplash or anything because my car got hit from the back and it kind of jolted me forward. And so I didn't go to any medical or anything to get checked out. And so I don't know if that played a part of a certain part of my life of not getting that treated, if there was to get something medically treated. Uh, but that happened. And then how big of a, how big of a part did that play in, potential, not a whiplash, but a traumatic brain injury? Did my brain move and, uh, neurologists and that have better terminology in that. I'm just talking about like, did my brain move just a little bit or, um, and then again, that bring back trauma. And did that lead to increased anxiety or acute anxiety that now that I'm been diagnosed with? I don't know. I didn't have any tests done at that time. And so everything now, it's been many years. Oh, I think it's been 15 years or so, 14, 15 years. And so kind of been dealing with the aftermath and thinking about this, the spacecraft and Artemis II and the 10-day trip going around, uh, circling the moon, going on the dark side for the first time for humans, the astronauts, being in close quarters versus being with a lot of people, uh, and feeling sometimes the same anxiety, same feelings, the sweaty palms and feeling a little bit dizzy or feeling like I might pass out. Uh, all these things came to mind when the space vehicle, when they launched. Uh, and so we hope that the astronauts return safe. Hope that whatever information, whatever experiments, uh, testing that they're doing, that everybody's safe and secure. Uh, I did see that there was, I don't know, it was a malfunction with the toilet. Um, I'm not sure exactly what was going on there, and in a space vehicle circling the moon. I mean, you can, uh, but the mission would probably have to be cut and really, really, really short. They'd have to abort part of the mission if they weren't able to get that fixed. But there's probably redundancies that if this doesn't work, if the toilet doesn't work this way, maybe there's an alternative. What I don't know. But when you're spending a lot of money to do these things, uh, y having redundancies in case, I mean, let's say you have something and it needs two batteries, and you have two batteries, and let's say it can work on one battery, one good battery, and so it works only until the one battery is, if we find out that the second battery is not working, then we say, okay, is this something that we need to fix? Like we need to get another battery before we can even think about playing this toy, whatever it is, uh, or can we continue? And so there's, the science behind all that, physics, all kind of, gravity, stuff that's just way over my head that I I just heard about the toilet. It kind of made me chuckle a little bit. Uh, but I believe they did get it fixed, that they got whatever they needed fixed. I don't know if it was the handle. I don't know if it was, I don't know. Uh, so there's things like that that you kind of chuckle a little bit. However, you want everybody to be safe and as comfortable as possible in that confined space. So anybody watching and listening, maybe throw in the comments what you wanted to do when you grew up, when you were young, when you first, kind of came to it with, thinking and going, oh, that's really cool. Like I want to be a baseball player. I want to play hockey. I want to do this and be an astronaut, with the understanding that a super small percentage get picked to be astronauts, and an even super smaller amount, four, probably hundreds of astronauts, four got selected. So we'll definitely be watching in our household, uh, as long as it's not like in the middle of the night, for them to, re-enter the Earth's atmosphere, and after they circled and seen what's on the dark side of the moon. Who knows? Uh, maybe a light. I don't know. Maybe there's glow sticks on the other side. I have no idea what's on the other side. Maybe half of the supposed dark side of the moon is all dark, and maybe half isn't. I don't know. That's part of what they're doing, or why they're doing what they're doing. So it'll be interesting. Again, this is Artemis II. Uh, NASA. There's so many partners. Uh, it's not just a United States effort. There's our viewers and listeners. There's a lot of parts, a lot of knowledge, sharing between countries, and uh, kind of got the chills. Like I'm getting the chills now of, everybody. I don't say everybody, but a lot of people watch, the liftoff, and are going to be watching the splashdown. And it's something I think that can bring us all together, because again, it's not every day that a spaceship takes off from Earth and is doing what it's doing. I mean, it's so cool even now at 44, because it's been so many years, uh the, since kind of this ambition, and like the Elon Musk, talking about wanting to go to Mars and have people live on Mars. That'd be super cool too. If I'm around to see that, or if that's a possibility. But it's one of those things. Like he said, like Elon Musk said, whether you love him, you hate him, whatever. Uh, we can be afraid of things, and there are things that make us afraid. But he said a lot of people get afraid in their mind, and they don't actually like look at the fear in the eye. And he said, if you look at fear in the eye, it usually goes away because we're standing up to the fear. We're looking at it, going, you know what? I think I can do whatever, whatever the thing that I'm fearful of. And so maybe we take a little bit of that thought process of, yeah, there's a lot of things that are and can be fearful, a lot. But why don't we, if we're able to, why don't we look fear in the eye of that thing and go, hey, I can do this. I don't have to be afraid. Or I could do half of what I'm afraid of. And when you thought of, like, I never thought I could do that. So all I gotta say is try. Give it a try. I gave Voices for Voices a try. Those astronauts, they took all their training and all that seriously. They gave it a try. They could have thought, oh, there's no way that I'm gonna be picked to be an astronaut to be on a mission to actually go up into space. So I'm just not gonna try. If you have the ways and the means and that's something you want to do, try. Give it a shot. Maybe it works. Maybe it doesn't. But let's try spending maybe a little less time being afraid and more time trying. So thank you for watching and listening. It's been a great episode. Thumbs up, like, follow, subscribe, share. Reach out to 25, 50, 100, 1,000 contacts in your phone. Let them know about the Voices for Voices TV show and podcast. Let them know that we're based in mental health, mental challenges, trauma, recovery, substance abuse, traumatic brain injuries, uh, so much. And so all that is embedded in every single show and every single thing. Our books, our audio, our records, music, so much more. And if you're able to, head over to Venmo or Cash App, send $1 our way. We're a 501(c)(3) nonprofit charity, and we have over 470 episodes of the Voices for Voices TV show and podcast. I promise you, at least 50 episodes will hit your in the wheelhouse of a topic, a person. I know it. And we're going to be hitting 500 and we're going to be continuing through 500. We're going to go straight through the number 500 and then we're going to do 501 and then we're going to do as many as God wants us to do. So let's celebrate all the voices of the world and let's be a voice for ourselves. And there may be somebody that we know that isn't able to share their voice, that we can share their voice for them or help them. So take care. We love you. We're thinking about you. And we'll see you on the next episode of the show. Bye for now. See you later.